Rutherford Issues with Bryan Barrett on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Rutherford Issues is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric, who's sharing change. Well, they've donated more than $11 million to local nonprofits, assisting worthy causes right here in our community. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936. Today, we are going to talk about the new movie, The Uncivil War, America Divided. Our guest, David Siracusa, will join us after we take a look at this preview.
Hard to believe we're going to be single again, huh?
Yeah. Sure it'll be a different scene than when we were in our 20s, that's for sure.
Newly divorced?
Yeah, how did you know that?
So this is how it goes these days, and I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you want to work tomorrow?
Tom.
Beth.
COVID, Floyd, riots. Is there anything else going on in the world right now?
Well, have you watched this Chauvin video they finally released? Dude, I've watched it like 50 times. They're gonna string this guy up.
Tom, you don't know what it's like living as a black man. Look at me. What do you see? What would a cop see if he pulled me over?
A successful man who obeys the police?
A black man.
Why do they have to show that?
Oh, I know. It's awful, isn't it?
I mean, seriously, they should be ashamed of themselves. They're just trying to make the protesters look bad.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? There was one little awkward moment when Floyd came up, but...
Oh, come on.
Hey, man, I changed the subject as soon as I could, but...
But what?
Is it bad news that we don't agree on politics?
We've been friends forever. You and I don't agree.
I'm sorry, are you saying because I'm white, I don't care about black people dying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Actually, I do care. I just don't care about drug-crazed lunatics.
Oh, so I'm assuming you're talking about George Floyd.
Yeah,
he wasn't a drug-crazed lunatic.
Screw you, man. I don't need
Screw
this.
you! Where are you going?
I'm going home.
Good! Leave! I thought I was gonna have to put my big black foot in your wastewater. Help! Help!
The Uncivil War, America Divided. Joining us today, David Siracusa. David, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Brian?
I am doing very well. Good to talk to you here about the new movie. So you've been here in town, so kind of tell me what you've been up to here, and then we'll talk about the movie some.
Okay, yeah, well, we got to show the film last night in Smyrna at the Malco theaters. And we've had a great reception here in Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Everyone's been wonderful. We had a great crowd there last night. Everyone really seemed to enjoy the movie. I would say that there were one or two people who were maybe upset with some of the information that was shown in it because it's a very controversial movie and difficult for some people to watch.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to play the trailer a little bit, because you touch on some very hot button issues that we've gone through the last several years as well. So talk to us a little bit on how this all came about. I mean, how did this project come to mind?
Well, so around the time of COVID, my business that I had for many years was starting to struggle like everybody else is in the nation and around the world. And so a friend of mine, my real life Byron from the movie, Shane and I were friends. We had played basketball forever, and we kind of got back to playing basketball. And we were the only two out there for a long time because everyone was sheltering. Now, Florida was pretty open, which I know Tennessee at times was open, but Florida was pretty wide open. And so we were hanging out, and we'd be having these conversations, and he's black and I'm white, and I'd ask him, well, what do you think about the George Floyd thing? And he'd say, well, what do you think about COVID? And we'd both ask each other about the vaccines. And so we were having hard conversations with each other, but we could talk about it. And I could tell there were a lot of people in the nation that couldn't. I mean, we all saw it, people arguing online and screaming at each other, and friends not talking to each other anymore, families breaking up, not over COVID necessarily, but over politics of all things. So,
yeah, the fact that I was talking with my young adult son, he's 25, kind of about some of this, and all of his adult life, all of his pre-adult life, when he's kind of maybe paying attention to things going on in the world. He said, it seems like we've always been divided, Republican and Democrat so far apart from each other. And, I was telling him, he said that we have had the closest elections. And I said, well, in 2000, we had one that wasn't decided until December because of a hanging Chad. So, how long has this been going on? But it does seem to have ramped up, in the last number of years, just the divisiveness.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And it is funny because I think this generation that's coming up now does see it as the world's always been divided. That's what they've grown up knowing, like you say, with your son. Whereas I remember being a kid, and I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and we didn't talk about race. I mean, race, we had some issues that occurred at that time, but for the most part, if I was on the playground talking with somebody, it wasn't anything about black, white, or Hispanic or, anything like that. We just hung out. And so now I feel like every conversation is about race, and it feels very just disheartening and difficult.
David Siracusa joining us today. The Uncivil War, America Divided, is what we're talking about here. And this isn't your first dip of the toe into the writing, directing, acting waters, I guess, right?
No, so I've been an actor basically. So when my business started to suffer a little bit during COVID, I decided at that time, instead of trying to rebuild it, I'd just retire and go do something else for fun. So I got into acting. And that was kind of how I got into the whole side of it. But I would love to say that I really appreciate Smyrna and Murfreesboro hosting us, because it is so difficult. I don't think people understand. If you're an independent filmmaker like myself, when I produced this movie, I now had to go out and beg every theater to please let me put my film in there, and I had to pay most of them. And is a very difficult process. Malco Theaters was wonderful to work with, and we're really hoping that we can come back there again because we had such a good crowd. And hopefully if we can promote it a little bit more, we can get a larger crowd the next time we come back. But now after this, of course, we have to try and get distribution. So we have to get onto Netflix or Hulu or somebody like that so that we can show it to a wider audience.
Yeah. So how long has the movie been finished? And I did see, there are some reviews, a few reviews from all those different places that you go to look for that kind of thing. So how long has it been out, and have you had some other showings around the country?
Yeah, it's been out about, we finished it a year and a half ago. And then since then, like I said, just the independent filmmaker struggle. It took me a while to completely finish everything up and then get into the theaters. We did a whole circuit of theaters in Florida, a couple in Georgia. Now we've been to Tennessee with Smyrna, and we're headed to Beaumont, Texas next. And that should be our last theater unless we get a couple of more before we go to the film festivals and distribution. But it has been a very difficult process for us. So we're looking forward to getting into, getting the reviews to kind of help us out with getting into some other theaters potentially. And the reviews have been great online, although kind of funny, you talk about the divisiveness of this issue. I've been speaking with some people on Facebook about it, and I've tried to keep everyone very polite. I actually had a gentleman review our movie and give it a 1 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. He's never actually seen the movie. All he did was see the preview, and he gave us a horrible review because he got angry on Facebook at me, and he went and he gave us a full review. Everyone who's been in the theaters, for the most part, has really loved the film. Now, we have gotten a couple of bad reviews because it's art. You put art out there, and people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. And again, given the topic, I understand it. There are going to be people that look at it and say, I hate that point of view, even though we did try to show both sides of the aisle, if you will.
You know, I'm not sure how you could put out a movie called The Uncivil War, America Divided, talking about BLM also. I mean, just all the subjects that you take on in this movie and not I mean, I'm sure you didn't go in it thinking everybody's going to be on the same page about this movie.
Oh, I absolutely did not go in thinking that. Not at all. But see, that's why I think when people see the movie, I think that's why we get the good reviews, because they go in there, and a lot of the times they go in there, they'll tell me when they're walking out, they'll say, I thought I was going to hate this movie because I thought it was going to be a Trump advertisement, or I thought this was going to be all about Harris is the best, or back then Biden. And they come out and they say, wow, you did a good job of showing both sides. And that was my point, was to show that we are a divided country. But the big thing that really seems to be dividing us, in my point of view, is social media. I think social media is one of the worst forces in America today.
Well, you've got a very valid point about that, David. Want to give you the chance. We've got like a little over a minute left. Where can people watch? Where do you think plans are going forward for maybe a mass audience to be able to see this? What would you suggest for someone who's thinking, well, I need to see this right now?
Well, for anyone in the Smyrna or Murfreesboro area, if you want to let us know that you want us to bring it back, because a lot of people in the theater the other night, they said, man, if I had known about this, I would have gotten a lot more friends out. I'd love to bring it back here again to show it again. But otherwise, hopefully it's going to be streaming online soon, so you can check us out on the Uncivil War, AmericaDivided.com, and you'll be able to see everywhere where we're headed.
Okay. Very good. And I appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you're busy and traveling and getting to another place here and getting ready. Or I guess Beaumont, Texas is what you said. So good luck with that. And David, it's been fun chatting with you. Hope you enjoyed your time here in Rutherford County.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was a great time. Everyone here has been amazing. So nice, so receptive. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That's David Siracusa. The Uncivil War, America Divided. And we'll put a link to the website he mentioned there on the podcast here, and you can watch that back as well here in just a few. Have a great day out there, everybody. We certainly appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you back next time for another Rutherford Issues.